Okay, that's the least or the highest?
That's the highest.
Did you get services?
Yes, I did.
Like complete services?
Not really.
So what's the problem? What happened?
The basic challenge that I encountered was that I had issues with some of the equipments in the house. Like the toilet sink had an issue at some point, and the sink wasn't flowing. There wasn't water coming through the sink, and just few challenges which I did complain to the landlord about, rather the landlady about, and it took a while before all those was being put in to consideration, and then someone came to check for it. But basically I complained and I had to fix it. Some in like about 2 instances I had to fix it before the landlady sent someone when there was no problem to be fixed.
Okay, so but was this something that you were responsible for, or you got into the house and you discovered?
I got into the house and I discovered that. I didn't have anything to do with it. And when I complained, she was like, don't worry. These things, that's how it is. They're new equipment. You just have to exercise a little patience. Don't worry. When I call her today, I'll be like, this is happening. She'll be like, no, don't worry. I'll send someone. The next day, she just kept postponing. It just kept happening and happening. And that's how I had to fix it.
Okay, so let's just say you had you were a lucky tenant, because we also know that there are a lot and huge complaints about some landlords. In some cases, the tenants are responsible for, because it's also a responsibility on both sides, right? So today we have Mr. James Yakubu. Mr. James Yakubu is a landlord. Thank you for accepting to come on the program Prosumer Forum.
Thank you very much.
You need to speak to the mic so we can hear you.
Thank you. I'm grateful to be here.
All right.
Yes.
So, and then we have a tenant, Miss Mercy Chineke. Did I get that correctly?
Yes, that's my name.
It's good to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me.
How long have you been a tenant?
For like, let me say, 11 years now.
In Abuja or?
Yes, in Abuja.
Oh, okay. And how has it been? I mean, 11 years in one house or?
No, not in one house.
Okay.
Like at first, we were in Gwarimpa, and the rent then was like every 6 months they ask you to renew. So, or most times they tell you to quit, that they want to renovate, and then you have to leave and go rent another place for another 6 months. That was happening in Gwarimpa as at about year 2000. So there was one particular one that happened. It was 2016. My landlord sold the house without the consent of the tenants, and then afterward he came and introduced the new landlord to us. And meanwhile, he told the new landlord that everybody's rent expired in November 2016. Meanwhile, my rent and some other people's rent was supposed to expire February 2016. Okay, it happened 2015. Yeah. So we started negotiating with the new landlord, and he said he was going to give us three months. For some tenants, he refunded their money, full payments back, and for some he compensated. And for people like us, that our rent was almost expired, like mine was supposed to expire in February the next year. So he said he was going to give 3 more months, as in 3 more months after our rent expires, so we'll be able to get a new place. So it so happened that at the end of February, he came and removed my door.
Wow.
Yeah. He removed my door.
When you say removed your door, he opened it, boggled it, or he removed it, or brutaled it?
He called all these workers, site workers.
All these welders and the rest.
Yes, he actually came and told me that they want to start renovation. They have to move. I said, you gave me 3 months. And he said, no, that he didn't, that the previous landlord told him November last year. So he gave the 3 months from November.
So, okay, let me get this straight. You were in the hands of one landlord who decides to sell his house
without the consent of
without your own consent and other consents from your colleagues who are living in the same place,
yes,
your co-tenants, and then eventually you were given 3 months to vacate. Then this new landlord who takes over, the new owner, comes and boggles, uproots your door, or how do you put it?
Yeah. It was the new owner that gave the 3 months.
Oh, it was the new owner that now later came to deny
Yes.
giving 3 months.
Yes.
Okay.
So he came prior to that time to tell me that he wanted to start renovation, that I have to move. I told him, you gave me 3 months, and he was like, he had already told me that I should move. And at the end of the February that year, he brought in people and they started renovating. They removed my dish, removed the light, the connection to the sewage to the sewage tank. Broke it, so once you flush, everything pours into the compound, and then he broke open my door and one other lady downstairs. So that one was able to move immediately, So that was the height of it. So I stayed for like 3 weeks to 1 month before I was able to get another place, which was not convenient for me actually. That was what happened.
Jennifer is shocked because just a while ago we said she was lucky to have had a good landlady, and then she's hearing your story, so she's looking so emotional right now. I can't help it. But why do landlords do that? Can I ask Mr. James Yakubu? I mean, why would a landlord do that? Would you do that as a landlord?
Actually, as a landlord, if something is happening, especially if you give, if you give notice to a tenant, there's also time, either 2-3 months, 2 months, whatever, that he or she should pack from the house. And if it happens that if he refuses or he refuses to pack, that is when you can, in fact, you're not supposed to do that. To go and remove doors and remove windows, no. What you do is to give him or her maybe another 2 months or 3 months extra to quit out of the house. Whereby refused, you now take him to the court. You take him to the court, you will give notice to appear before the court. The court will now tell him, that this court issue, where we would have told them how far we have gone with this tenant. I've given this tenant 3 months, he refused to pack. I've given her another 3 months, he refused to pack. So that is why I'm now bringing her to the court, so that we now know what to do. The court will now fix a date for both of us to be to the court.
So you now go to the court, and invariably it means that nobody has the right to evict anybody if there's some payment made, unless the court is involved.
And if the payment, if there's not payment, see, we have some tenants. Actually, some tenants are stubborn. That's number one there, because there are some tenants, when it's time to pay their rent, they will not pay. Then you will now say, okay, we are human beings. We know sometimes there's problem.
You need to put your mic very well. Yes.
We know sometimes things get difficult, and we landlords normally exercise patience to see what's going to happen next. But whereby after say 2-3, after a month, when he's supposed to pay the rent and he refuses to pay, that is when you now say, okay, if you cannot pay, the best thing, because okay, if you cannot pay, what we'll do is to give you quick notice. By the time you present a quick notice to him and he refuses to go, because some tenants will refuse to go and give them notice. Then we will add this notice will come from the court. Then after 3 months, you will now go to the court. The court will call his attention and the landlord's attention and find out what is actually happening. The landlord will now say, okay, this is how far I have gone with my tenant. And he has refused to pay his rent for about 3 months or 6 months. The court will now ask him, are you still prepared to stay in that house? If you are prepared to stay, you can pay your rent. The court may give us another, say, 1 month to come. Whereby he still refused to pay, we will now go back to the court. Then they will summon him and tell him to find a place within a period of time to quit from that house.
Okay, this is it. Like in her case, she said that he said he was going to give them 3 months after the expiry date, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and
That's a new landlord.
that's your new landlord
Yes.
at that time.
Yes.
But immediately it was February, he came and told you that you have to move out.
Yes.
So the question here is, as the landlord here, do you get to say you change your mind? Because I think that is what just happened with you and your landlord. Maybe he just changed his mind at the end of the month.
Yeah, I think so. But because he said, I think he started counting down from what the previous landlord told him.
But is that what he told you? Did he clearly state that to
No,
you?
not at all. No.
Okay, so is there any miscommunication between you, the landlord, and your tenant? Because in this case, I mean, he told them that he was going to grant them 3 more months after your rent has expired. But in this case, he came immediately when the rent expired. So is this a problem from you, the landlord? You just changed your mind? Or do we have cases of that sort? And if you want to do things like that, is there some kind of compensation you get to give your tenant?
Well, if actually the new landlord gave her 3 months after the expiring date of former payment, if he actually gave her 3 months, that 3 months must be completed before he asks her to quit out of the house. There's no way you can give 3 months, then after say 2 weeks at a time, 3 weeks at a time, ask the tenant to pack. No, it's not done that way. It's not the
Okay, so let's clearly state that this is Prosumer Forum, and on this edition, let's not get it wrongfully. We're not discussing the rights of tenants and all of that. We're simply talking about the rights of the consumer. Remember that service is given by the landlord to a consumer, somebody who wants to come and stay in his facility and live there within an agreed period of time and with an agreed amount of money to be paid. The question is whether most of these consumers, in other words, these tenants, get to enjoy the services that the landlords had promised at the initial stage of it. We'll come back on the program. Stay with us. And let's take a break. We'll be back.
Okay.
Human Rights Radio.
This is your magazine radio station. Listen.
It's only today that my daughter gets just to eat food. Past 2 months now, you be in your shop selling before you know your child will disappear.
Listen.
My own. That is what is killing us. They demolish everything. They burn all our things. Even my credentials, even my children own. Up to the extent, no clothes, nothing.
Government cannot give us everything we want. And as a youth, the little you have, you can use this to establish yourself.
Given a voice to the voiceless. 101.1 FM. Listen. Your right, my right, our right. Everybody's right is protected. Human Rights Radio 101.1, redefining broadcasting.
Welcome back to Prosumer Forum on Human Rights Radio 101.1 FM. And today on the program, we started off by looking at the rights of the consumer of services and the responsibilities of the provider of these services. So today's episode is not about real estate. Rather, we're looking at the rights of a tenant and the responsibilities of the landlord as a service provider. I'll tell you what, I just moved into a new apartment just like 2-3 months ago. And let me just say clearly that sometimes when you try to be a good tenant, you're taken for granted. I paid every single amount of money I was supposed to pay. I paid the lawyer, what they call it, the legal fee. I paid the The other person, who is the other person?
The
The
agency.
agency fee.
yeah.
And I paid everything all at once. I got into the house and it was just the way it was when the previous tenant was there. The sink was filled with water, and I thought that, because I saw it when I came to inspect the place, I thought that normally landlords are supposed to prepare the place, because if the first tenant came and paid a certain amount and I'm coming to pay a similar amount, the first tenant saw the house in good shape. Why shouldn't I get the house in good shape? And that way I felt like my rights as a consumer were being abused. I don't know if I'm wrong, but is it right or wrong for a tenant to enjoy a brand new facility when he pays rent? Mr. Landlord, Mr. James.
Yes, it is a right for the landlord, for the tenant who has come to pay for a new place. As far as sometimes, no matter how old the house is, when you pay, you are paying for a new place. So the tenant, the landlord, he has to put everything in order to make sure this person will be happy by the time he gets into the house. The other time, what I know that what sometimes happen within the landlord and the tenant, sometimes there are some, once you are occupying a place, a room or whatever flat you are opening, whether a flat or whatever, once we are occupying a place, some tenants, the problem they have is this: when they are small things, they can take upon themselves. They're waiting for the landlord to come and, do it for them. This also used to cause some problems.
That's after the person moves in.
After it's moved in. Maybe by the time you move in after 1 year, we have some problems. A small problem that you can,
Can you give us an example of the small problems that we can actually fix?
Yes, the small problem I'm saying here is that there are some tenants when it's time when they have problem on electricity, maybe disconnection is made, or they have problem electrical fault in the house. We would have expected him or her to call the electricians to come and look it for him, because sometimes I used to surprise. Supposing the landlord is far away, how do you do this? Will you be waiting in darkness until the landlord comes to put the electricity in order? This is another problem. There are other minor problems like that, which I think, because I myself, I was once a tenant. And I know how I handle the property I was living in. There are certain things that happens that you don't have to even go to landlord to say, oh, this thing has happened, please come and put it in order for me. But in some cases, in cases of some tenants, they are not prepared to spend 1 kobo after their rent payment. As a result, this one used to some tenants, some landlords will just say, okay, if you say something has spoiled, you cannot pay it, okay, I'll come. At the end of the day, he will not be there. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, he will not be there. We will always say, okay, go. He will now feel that when he's tired of it and it's not getting anything from him, he will now know what to do. That is the problem.
But some landlords also insist that before you break anything or repair anything, you must always let them know. And
there are certain things that if you want to repair, take for example, you have your, say your gens. That's maybe your perhaps your waste, it has problem. And you have to, the tenant are supposed to be able to use the waste room all the time. So if there's a problem like that, there's no way he can be waiting for it. But he can consult the tenant, the landlord, that look, I have problem like this, also problem. And on depending the type of problem, if it is just, some people, some tenants, the WC, they break it themselves. Either their children break it, or they will expect the landlord to come and replace. That is where the landlord will say, no, I cannot replace this. You damage it, well, and replace it. That's the problem.
We're going to be joined by a lawyer very soon, and eventually we'll get to know about the rights of a tenant and how tenancy agreements are abused, how consumers of services that relate to housing are not given at all what they deserve. But let's go back to Miss Mercy Chineke, a tenant whose rights, according to her, as far as she was concerned, at the time in 2015, were abused. And she obviously has said they had an agreement 3 months away to her packing out of the house, and then suddenly the man comes and says, "Madam, I need you out of my house." He uproots the door, and she's left with having to sleep in a house without a door. He sort of like breaks the sewage system, and then everything just becomes uncomfortable for her. Did you have any form of agreement at the previous time when you moved into the apartment? And also, did you have a written agreement on the 3 months grace that was given to you?
Okay, it's what the previous landlord, we had an agreement with him, a written agreement. But after he sold the house, the new landlord, he came to the house to have a meeting with everybody. So I think he individually met everybody. He compensated some. He refunded full rent to some, and then he was just doing it like individually. So to some of us, like 3 of us, he told us that he was going to give us 3 months. It wasn't a written agreement. It wasn't a written agreement. But I have the previous agreement with the landlord that my rent was supposed to expire in February 2016.
Okay. We have Barrister S.O. Yahaya, a solicitor and advocate. Thank you very much for joining us on Prosumer Forum.
Thank you very much, sir.
It's good to have you. I'm sure that as a lawyer, you've had to handle a lot of landlord-tenant issues. I don't know, am I right?
Sure, you are very right.
So now look at this. What exactly can be classified as a right of a tenant? Especially in the FCT, I understand that the laws vary. Am I correct?
Yes, you are very correct.
All right, go ahead and tell us.
Yeah, the right of a tenant.
You need to put the mic very close to your mouth.
The right of a tenant, insofar the tenant has already paid to the landlord, the tenant has exclusive rights over the property during the tenancy, except after the expiration, that the landlord can say, okay, by way of due notices, that okay, I want to take over possession of the property. But insofar the tenant has already paid, he or she has full rights over the property. That is the right of the tenant. And exclusive right, I mean exclusive right that the landlord cannot interfere or without the consent of the tenant enter the property. Even to check the property, he cannot if you want to verify or check some inside the property, he cannot do that. So insofar the tenant is there and he has paid the rent, that is the right of the tenant, sir.
Okay, so because she told us a story, I know you just came in.
Yes.
And the story is simple. She paid for rent, the rent had not expired, the landlord sold the property to a new buyer. The buyer now comes and says, I'm going to compensate everybody. He goes one by one, compensates some in full, some partly, and of course some didn't get anything. And eventually agrees with her that she has 3 months to leave. Then suddenly he resurfaces and says, you need to leave my property. And then he takes out the door, destroys certain things in the name of renovation, and there she was. She had to stay an extra how many weeks?
Like 6 weeks there.
6 weeks or so before she finally got to another uncomfortable environment to live.
Yes, in respect of that act, that particular landlord put laws into his hand. He is not supposed to do such a thing. The right thing to do has been stipulated in the Recovery of Premises Act. Even if the ownership has just been transferred to the person, he is supposed to give them due notices before he has the possession of the property. The notices are stipulated in the Recovery of Premises Act section 7, 8, 9, and 10. those are the notices that are applicable for any landlord that wanted to take over his property from the tenant. That kind of the act which the landlord, that particular landlord did, is something that the tenant is supposed to even take it up with him. He's supposed to sue him for that act, because first, our tenancy has not been expired. It has not been the tenancy has not been determined. Then, secondly, even if the tenancy has been if our tenancy has been expired, he cannot even go in by removing the door or eject him by force.
Does that become criminal?
Yes, that is just it. There's no any other name for that. That is just it. This the tenant supposed to take it up, maybe by consulting his a lawyer to take it up, because even if our tenancy has been expired, as I earlier said, if our tenancy has been expired, so leave my property, and the tenant refuse to leave, he cannot he cannot take laws into his hand. He's supposed to do the normal. He's supposed to follow normal procedure by serving the requisite notices. Yes. By serving the requisite notices, which is quit notice and notice of owner's intention to recover possession. Even after those notices, if the tenant fails to vacate the property, the right thing to do is to go to court. It is only court that can eject a tenant, not
so
an individual.
Nobody has the right. Only
nobody. Yes, it's only competent court that has the right to eject a tenant. Nobody can go to any house or a house that, okay, your tenancy has been expired, please move out. And if the person doesn't move out,
I'm going to cut you up there, and we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get to know whether Miss Mercy Chineke wants to pick this up with her former landlord. Stay with Human Rights Radio 101.1 FM. We'll be back.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على حي على الصلاة حي على حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Human Rights Radio.
Welcome back to Prosumer Forum, where we bring the producers, service providers, regulators, and everyone involved, the stakeholders, put together in one beautiful studio like what we have here. If you like to see how beautiful our studio is, just simply go to our Facebook fan page, Human Rights Radio 101.1 FM, and you get to see the beautiful people and beautiful studio as well. We have Mr. James Yakubu, a landlord. We have Ms. Mercy Chineke, she's a tenant. Barrister S.O. Yahaya, a solicitor and advocate, who has also joined us on the program. And we're talking about the rights of the tenant. Clearly, we are trying to establish the rights to the service receiver, that person who pays money in the name of, give me a house, let me stay in the house, but give me the services that I should enjoy as a tenant. If you are a landlord, you are a service provider, because you are giving services to somebody who is paying in money to enjoy those services, in this case, housing. So the question again, Jennifer just told us a very laughable gist, and she says her landlady buys biscuits, and she comes to see her, ask questions, and we all agreed in the studio that the landlady is a landmother, not a landlady, obviously. So on the program, let's remember, you can call us up and join us in the discussion. 081 89 99 1011. That's the number to call. Be part of the discussion. Clearly, some of the rights of the tenants are clear. Barrister, you're going to have to guide me on this. The right to written agreement, is that correct?
Yes, you are correct.
There's also the right to issuance of receipt of payment.
Definitely.
The right to peaceful enjoyment of property.
Definitely.
Right to valid quit notice.
Yes.
Right to fair hearing.
Yes.
Right to sue landlord for trespass.
For trespass in case of anyone.
Yes. The right to statutory tenancy.
Yes.
And the right to compulsory 7 days notice.
Yes.
Okay. So let's take the first phone call. Hello. Please pick up the radio set.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
We can hear you. Go ahead and call us up 081 89 99 1011. Please endeavor to put off your radio set before calling us, so we don't suffer the...
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Welcome to Prosumer Forum.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Rotimi.
You're welcome. Go ahead.
I'm calling from Buhari.
All right.
So concerning this issue on tenants and landlords.
Yes.
I want to tell you that some tenants, I was a tenant before. I only stay in 3 houses before I build my home.
Okay.
Some tenants are so wicked that they will have the money and they will not like to pay landlords. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
And some, they can vandalize property of their own house, which means when I was staying in a rented apartment, I take that house I'm staying as my personal house. And it do occur to me whenever I want to move to another place, I will make sure that I renovate. Even place, I always start by the...
Hello?
So I will renovate the house, then inform the landlord that I'm packing out. You know, by doing that also thing, the landlord will surprise. And he will be very happy that you are moving out. He can even compensate you. And by doing that, voluntarily from your heart, I know God will even build your home for you. So I will tell you that it don't take me more than, I only say in 3 years, and God after my prayer, I have my own apartment. And when I was going, after I say, my landlord was so happy, he now refunded 6 months for me that I should take it away. He paid me 6 months as you know what I should go. That was why we came back from subsidy. May God help us. God bless you, sir.
Amen. Thank you so much for your contribution of the program. Go ahead and be part of the discussion on Prosumer Forum. And quite frankly, let's also, even when you collect money, the responsibility on the side of the consumer should also be recorded. Does that happen? We'll answer that later on. Hello?
Hello, good afternoon, sir.
Welcome to Prosumer Forum.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. What's your name?
My name is Ibrahim. So,
are you a landlord or a tenant? Oh, that happened quite too early. Sorry about that. Feel free to call us up. We'd love to hear from you. 08189 991011.
hello.
Welcome to Prosumer Forum.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
My name is Mwabweze.
Mwabweze, you're welcome.
Thank you. I am a landlord. I have an apartment.
Please, Oga, please put up your radio set.
I want to. Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
We can hear you.
I have an apartment.
That is in the East, in Niger State.
Okay.
And somebody is saying that for the last 3 years now, I have no ability to pay. I have troubles and I've sent him, called him, traveled twice, and he has not paid for 3 years.
3 years. So what did you do about it? You allowed him?
Ordinarily, I should take him to court, but I live in Abuja. And the property is in the East. So what do I do?
So you're helping him now?
Hello?
You're helping him, Abi? The sound is very bad, obviously. I didn't even know that. It's clear from here, but outside I understand it's not too clear. I beg your pardon. Hello?
Hello?
Welcome to Prosumer Forum. What is going on? Is it the airtime landlord that is cutting this one? So, Barrister, very quickly, what are some of the challenges with the tenants?
Yes, thank you very much. There are some tenants. I don't actually know their own problem, but maybe they may have the money but they don't want to pay, or they don't have the money, they just want to live large. They will go and get the property that is beyond their income. Because some tenants we pay for a year, but once they pay for that year, they won't pay, and they won't renew their rent again, and the landlord will. We have so many of them that we have already filed a case against them, that we see them, we see that kind of cases every day. But the problem we notice about them is that maybe, especially in Abuja here, they are doing more. They get the property which they cannot pay for again. The money is beyond their income. That is what I notice personally. Because when somebody is collecting, let's say 50,000 naira per month, and he went and get 800,000 naira per annum, when once he pay for a year, to renew will become problem, and they will be running around to get them even served with all the notices, or the court processes will become another thing, which we always find it very difficult to proceed against them in court. But thank God that there are some alternative way of serving them, which the law have already provided for the landlord, which is by way of subsidiary service. That is the only means we normally use to serve such tenants. So that is just the and some, the way they normally use the property, irrespective of what we have in the tenancy agreement, they will not abide by it. They will use their property. They will use the property as if it is not the human being that stays in the property. They will use it as if it is animal that stays in the property. That kind of tenants is also available. So those are the predicament. Those are the challenges.
Quite some very interesting challenges there. But let's before we wrap up, Miss Mercy.
Yes.
Let's again ask you one last time. Are you ready to take up a case? Because there are agencies that will handle your case, you know.
Okay.
Or are you ready to take it to the next level,
yes.
take it to court?
Yes.
And
yes.
seek redress? Because it's your right as a consumer of any service. Am I right, barrister?
Yeah. You are very right.
Okay,
You are
good.
very right.
All right, so clearly you're taking up that case. We will also follow up on that and make sure that eventually you enjoy what you paid for.
Thank you very much.
Those few months that you didn't get, we're sure that eventually you will get them. Do have a great time. Thank you so much, Oga Landlord, for coming. Mr. James Yakubu, you took the time to come and speak on behalf of the landlords. We thank you so much for being part of Prosumer Forum.
Thank you very much.
Barrister S.O. Yahaya, would like to thank you for stopping by.
Welcome, sir.
And Ms. Mercy Chineke, also thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jennifer is here with me, and very soon she will join her landmother and have some more biscuits. I wish I could get somebody like that too. But have a lovely time. For those who contributed on the program, unfortunately we can't take more calls. Up next, Telephone Vano with the ordinary president. I am Peter. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Your right, my right.